being able to do that, I think at any small level, challenging the way we've always done things. If you don't feel safe to do that, what transformation can
Yeah.
really can really happen? If in a small way, people get punished for challenging something, they're generally going to learn to keep
Don't do it.
quiet. Or
Yeah.
if they get punished for trying to be innovative, if people get punished for an attempted improvement that fails or underperforms, and instead of encouraging people to iterate
Mm.
through that, if they get punished, people are only going to try things that are guaranteed to work.
Hello, my name is Heath Gascoigne, and I'm the host of the Business Transformation Podcast. And in this show, we talk to business transformators who are part business strategists, part business designers, and part collaborators, and part negotiators. Business transformators have moved past just business design and includes oversight of implementation of those business designs and business transformations, and includes stakeholder management, coordination, and negotiation. If you work in strategy development and implementation and work to ensure that the strategy is aligned to the business design and technology, then you're probably a business transformator. This is the show where we speak to industry experts and professionals to share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you start, turn around, and grow your business transformation. Welcome to the Business Transformation Podcast. And in this episode, we are talking to one of those industry experts. We are speaking to today's guest is Mark Graban, an international recognized author, speaker, and consultant in the world of lean, continuous improvement, and healthcare transformation. He is the author of several influential books, including Lean Hospitals and the Mistakes That Make Us, and over 2 decades of experience working with leaders across industries from startups to healthcare systems. Mark brings a unique blend of operational excellence and people-centric leadership. He is also the host of the popular podcast Lean Blog Interviews and My Favorite Mistake. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Heath, thanks for having me here. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, I think I was doing you some injustice there because you actually are the author of at least 5 books, is it not? And then you've won 3 awards for them, the Shingo Awards.
Yeah, it should be easier to count the number of books. I've written 3 solo books, one with a co-author, one that was a variation. We call it the executive guide
Uh-huh.
version of that book. And then there was a book, Practicing Lean, that I was the editor of. But yeah, you're right. 3 of those: Lean Hospitals, The Mistakes That Make Us, and then Healthcare Kaizen, that was co-authored with Joe Schwartz. All those 3 were recipients of the Shingo Publication Award.
Great job. Great job.
Thanks.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. And The Mistakes That Make Us, that was very recently this year, Shingo recipient.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah,
I,
thanks.
I, I know this, that to put out a book is no small feat. To put out 2, like, wow, amazing. Congratulations. Okay, you got a grasp, to the audience there to give context. Mark is in Cincinnati in the US, which I've just learned is the Midwest, they'd call it, in London, UK. So the things we'll talk about here is not, let's biased of one country or the other. It's probably
Yeah.
symptomatic of the industry itself. So as we usually do for the audience and the topic so we can follow along, we will cover the 3 points. The first one being, from Mark, your perspective in lean hospitals, healthcare, continuous improvement, leadership. What has the industry got right? What are they doing wrong? Or there are some continued mistakes like this business transformation they talk about, there's 70% failure rate and no one's learning, no one's getting better. So from your perspective, what you're seeing after all this as a 5-time international published award-winning author and consultant, your own practice for many years, what's the industry got right and wrong? And the second point is there a particular approach that you follow when you go into a client or as on your consulting engagements or helping others with their transformations? What is that process? Could you step us through it? And number 3 is, for all this experience, if you could do it all again, what would you do differently? Usually that's the aha moment. You go, I definitely wouldn't waste my time on this one. I would just go straight to the jugular and hit this one straight away. 80-20 rule would have got all the benefits. we'll do that first.
Right.
How's that sound?
That's a lot to cover, and
Yeah, yeah, sorry.
I think that's going to that's teeing up really, that'll be a good conversation.
Good, fantastic. Okay, so from your perspective with the industry, continuous improvement, healthcare, digital in there, what's it got wrong when you come in to help a client and you go, okay, this is why they called me in, same old thing, usual.
Yeah. So I think one thing I think a lot of people get wrong is this 70% failure rate number.
Yeah,
My understanding is that there was research that points to business transformation, large scale change initiatives. What do we mean by failure? Right.
mm,
So when we dig back and we look at that 70% failure rate, I think failure was defined as the initiatives did not live up to the expectations. They did
yeah,
not deliver the expected benefits. So I don't think that means 70% of the time that there was no benefit. You might say a
yeah,
complete failure.
yep,
It could be that the expected benefits were unrealistic. People thought the transformation might be easy or that transformation might be complete. And I think people have often twisted that 70% failure rate number, or that failure rate number I've seen, there's some inflation. Like
mm.
that number grows. And
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes people
yep,
state 90%, or and I think sometimes it's stated in a self-serving way where I think consultants are suggesting everybody else has a failure rate, but if you work with me, you won't
yeah,
fail.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I think we need to take that 70% failure number into perspective and think about the lessons around why might business transformation efforts fail. I think that's a healthy I think that's a healthy discussion to have. And I think one of the reasons for failure is, I think for the talk of transformation, think about like renovating a kitchen. Like a kitchen, I've never
mm,
done this, but
yep,
I
yep,
watch TV shows. A kitchen transformation might involve just completely tearing everything out
yep,
and starting anew. But installing, and there's going to be Britishisms versus Englishisms, but
yeah,
installing a new refrigerator, I think I'll use, I think there's universal language there.
yeah, yeah,
Installing a new refrigerator
yeah,
is not a transformation.
mm,
And I think a lot of organizations that talk about transformation are just, if you will, nibbling around the edges, and they're not really transforming anything. You might say, if we were a commercial kitchen in a restaurant and our business was failing because the food didn't taste good
yeah,
or the prices were too high, installing a new refrigerator wouldn't really transform that restaurant, even though we might say, oh, that's the latest and greatest technology, and that's the same kitchen, or that's the same restaurant, the same refrigerator. Boy, my coffee is not kicking in yet. Let me try that again.
yeah,
We're going to buy the technology.
mm,
Here's the refrigerator, or here's the point of sale computer system that successful restaurants use. Buying that
yeah,
same technology doesn't mean we've transformed our
yeah.
business or that we're going to be as successful as another business. I think that's one of the failure modes
One of the
there.
elements, yeah. I think what you're saying there is if technology got involved, and when I say technology stakeholders, that they would say, we've got the new shiny object and we want to
Yeah.
replace this system for another system. And then go to your point is that really a transformation or is it just a system replacement? You went from the old version to the new
Hmm.
version and then you've called the whole thing a transformation. And so the business point to
Hmm.
the other point you're talking about expectation, the business heard this word transformation and going, we're going to get a transformation when really the technology guys just replaced the system, old technology with the new version and go,
Yeah.
ta-da, and the business is going, well,
Right.
they really solved my problem.
Yeah. And I'm not anti-technology. I work with a technology company, KaiNexus, it's a SaaS business enterprise platform for organizations to track their continuous improvement and operational excellence activities. And when we have lost a customer over the last 14 years, it's not because our technology didn't work, but it's more that the organization aspired to a transformation. Like I said, we're going to have a culture of continuous improvement.
Yep.
And they said, if we're going to do a lot of continuous improvement, we need a software platform to help manage and track that.
Yes.
But then sadly, the organizations maybe don't do the things from a leadership perspective or a culture perspective that help people feel safe in participating in improvement. And then they're not doing a lot of improvement, and that cultural transformation isn't happening. And then they question, okay, we don't need that software anymore. And I give the team at KaiNexus a lot of credit. They've never promised that software alone was going to create that transformation, but technology can support a transformation.
Yep. Okay, I like what you're saying there. I feel the same about technology. I'm not anti-tech and anti-AI or new systems, but I think what you touched on 3 key points there: culture, leadership, and safe. And safe as in security-wise. And I think that's an overlooked factor. That it's one of those things that's not considered until on reflection, and even then at the end of a project, and go, why was it so hard? Why did it take so long? Why did we not get the benefits? And you go, because you basically, like I get told when someone will find out, oh, Heath, you wrote a book. And I said, yeah, my plan is, get here, I said, my plan is to come in here and beat you over the head with it until you're blue in the face. And they go, are you serious? And I was going, of course not. I said, if anyone tells you to do that, you got to run for the hills, because they're not going to listen to you and going to try and follow things by the word. And I've actually had people message me and say, Heath, bought your book. We're trying to follow it by the letter. I was going, look, thank you, I'm honored, but there's a word at the front that says framework, which means you need to think and apply it appropriately and proportionately for the context. So that's really part of the people part, which you just basically, all those 3 things you just said is all about the people: culture, leadership, and being safe. And so are you finding that is a common thing that's missing in the industry right now?
Around safety and what people would call psychological safety, I would say yes. That is missing far too often. I would assume, until proven otherwise, in a typical workplace, that people don't feel safe enough to speak up. They get punished for speaking up.
Yes.
And psychological safety, a phrase like lean management that sometimes gets misunderstood. Psychological safety, quite simply, is a factor of how safe do you feel speaking up in the workplace. And that could include pointing out a problem, sharing an idea, disagreeing with somebody, especially disagreeing with your manager. Are you getting rewarded for speaking up, or are you being punished for speaking up? And so a lot of organizations have well-intended lean transformation initiatives, and they invest a lot of money into training people about the concepts. That might be, if you will, the technology, the methodologies of lean, the tools, the tactics. They may do some projects, but then it doesn't really take off, and it certainly doesn't scale. If you train people to do problem solving and they get punished for pointing out problems, how much problem solving can we actually do? Probably very little.
Zero. I think
some people will speak up anyway. Again, like that doesn't scale to the whole organization. So I think instead of saying you all need to be brave, you need to be courageous. I think leaders need to reduce or eliminate the level of fear.
Oh, okay. I like that. Yes, you're right. So I think that's I'm taking notes here because you're dropping some gold there, Mark.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Business Transformation podcast listener, enjoying the episode so far? If you're finding these insights useful, you'll love this. I'm giving you free access to the first 3 chapters of our international bestseller, The Business Transformation Playbook. It's the exact framework used by the UK government and Fortune 500s to design winning transformations. And for the first time, it's available in Spanish with French and Portuguese coming soon. Grab your preview now at hoba.tech/playbook. No strings attached. Now back to the podcast.
How safe, I think if anyone was to ask that question, leadership in their boardroom, how safe do you feel about speaking up? You'll probably get crickets.
Sometimes people don't feel safe to speak up about not feeling safe.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm helping a client right now, and there are some things that we're told that we can say and can't say in particular board meetings, and because it may upset some people and send some fires off racing. So, did you want to change or did you not want to change? Because
Right.
I can give you lip service and put lipstick on the pig, and it makes it look pretty, but they're not the execution. I think what you were talking about before, going to training and you got the methods and frameworks, but the actual implementation and they talk about business architecture being the gap between the design and implementation. It's like the bridge, so to say, is this now we're in implementation. It seems to be you've done a great job on the design, selling the story, but when the reality of the rubber hits the road, the wheels fall off the wagon.
Right. Yeah. And if a business, an organization really wants to transform, whether they frame that as a digital transformation, as has been popular,
Yes.
cultural transformation, business transformation, that involves challenging the status quo. And at the highest levels of psychological safety, and I often point to a framework from the book written by Timothy R. Clark, a book called The Four Stages of Psychological Safety. In the fourth stage, the pinnacle that we're aiming for, he calls this challenger safety. Do you feel safe challenging the status quo? And without being able to do that, I think at any small level, challenging the way we've always done things, if you don't feel safe to do that, what transformation
Yeah.
can really happen? If in a small way, people get punished for challenging something, they're generally going to learn to keep quiet. Or if they get punished for trying to be innovative, if people get punished for an attempted improvement that fails or underperforms, and instead of encouraging people to iterate through that, if they get punished, people are only going to try things that are guaranteed to work.
Yes.
And that's not innovation or transformation. If people are being very, very cautious.
Yeah, no innovation will happen then if you punish them. Yeah, and or the other happens is you get this silos created where a great piece of work is done in isolation, and they have created a little, I don't know what you call it, a pod or a little in their team or department or unit. It's done really well, and others see the good example, and they go, this team go, no, we're going to incubate ourselves now because we did such a good job, and if we share this widely, others will kill it. So let's not. And then the silos get created, and then there's no cross-functional collaboration, and you've got parts of the organization are doing really well, and other parts are no.
Yeah, and silo transformation is not as powerful as business transformation, business unit or corporation, or even in the context of the lean methodology in healthcare. I did have opportunity to spend some time in England, in Northampton.
Oh, wow.
Working with NHS hospital there. That was over 15 years ago. And obviously the British system at a very high level, the NHS, is very different than the American system. And it's also different than the Canadian system. And it's different than the Dutch system. But when I'm coming in and looking at opportunities for transformation, that's really more on the execution of the care delivery within the context of the system. So when I work in Canada, or when I've been in the UK, I have to be very sensitive to the perception of coming in as an American, where sometimes people say, "Oh no, you're trying to privatize things." I'm like, "No, not at all, not at all." When I was in there working with that NHS hospital, we weren't trying to change what it was. We were trying to help it transform the way it delivered care. And the project that I was leading in the pathology department was really looking at what we would call a value stream. So we were looking at not just the sub-departments within the pathology department, but we were really looking at transforming what you might call the end-to-end flow
Yep.
of a patient specimen. So a GP clinic drawing a tube of blood from your arm, how long does that tube of blood sit and wait before it's delivered to the hospital? How long does
Yep.
it sit and wait before the blood is actually processed and tested? And how
Yeah.
long does it wait before that test result becomes information
Mm.
that the doctor can use? So it's a very interesting flow from needle in
Taking,
arm,
yep.
and then at some point the product becomes information that's used to make clinical decisions.
Decisions. Yep.
Helping those different silos or breaking down the silos
Breaking down, yes.
it's really that was a pretty successful broad transformation. It's not about any one person working harder or performing better, or any sub team or silo performing better. Like the transformation opportunity was really being able to look more broadly instead of just
Yep.
looking at how I do my work, how this little geographic space and part of the hospital basement does its job. We aimed broader. Now, was that a hospital transformation? No. I think sometimes you have to start somewhere and demonstrate that value stream transformation is possible.
Yeah. Okay. So the first part there, I'll play back for the audience, is I think your awareness as a independent or a consultant coming in is first you understood the cultural difference that maybe not there. The UK's has maybe a perception of the US and their culture. And so that you'd have to probably say yourself, look, no, this is what, because I get that myself when I go into the clients and I say for book, or you have a certain background, so you're going to apply that. So no. It's understanding what you're doing, what's missing, and fill in the gaps. And we got a method Okay, so first off,
we're on the same page. But back to your other question of how do I work with organizations? I don't come in with this magical 47-step process that's guaranteed to work if you just follow my 47 steps. I could tell you don't operate that way either. So I think what's really effective, if we're coming in trying to improve or transform something, like a lot of lean management going back to Toyota is really built upon a structured problem solving methodology.
Yeah.
And so I try to use that structured problem solving methodology as the way of framing and defining the engagement. Mm-hmm. So we're not coming in and jumping to solutions. That's poor problem solving. So I try to really teach the methodology by using the methodology of defining our problem statement, defining our goals, defining the measurable gap that we need to close, understanding the current system, understanding the causes of the performance gap. Then think about what are we going to improve or transform or reinvent. And then work on that and think of it as iterative improvement cycles instead of thinking of it as a linear start to finish project. And I think that sets people up to not just run the project, but then to continuously improve after that project phase is done and after I've left. I want to set them up to not just sustain what we've done together, but to keep improving.
I like what you're saying there about after you left. That is, I think that's the missing, not say the missing link, but for those that want to leave or embed the change to live longer than the consultants were there, is to, one, you're going to lift in business architecture, they might call it competency or capability, that you're going to embed that so that they can change. But I just want to go back a step where you said about the really approach that from a problem solving perspective, and that you're doing it in a structured way, is, which I find, and it would be good to get your thoughts on this, is that when you're going to solve a problem for a client, is that this whole problem solving solution development is part of a process. And that what I think those that haven't been experienced to successful projects is they think it's almost an event. That a problem is made aware or some loosely defined, and we want to get a solution as quick as we can, and And then they'll go jump. And this is the point I want to get, is that you said you don't want to jump into solution mode straight away. So just for the audience perspective, we've got a absolute senior professional here, multiple award-winning author. Plus, I don't know how many connections you got on LinkedIn, Mark. You got 500,000. So we got the boss here, who's just said. So this is not UK or USA, and I'm maybe speaking more to our technology colleagues. We're in this boat together, the business side and the technology side. But what we've got to stop doing, I think, is just jumping into solution mode straight away, and it's coming up with our new shiny objects. And AI is now the new kid on the block, and everyone's banging around about that. So, well, yeah, that's a solution, potential solution of the solution options, but we don't want to go there first. And so you just step, yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Around AI in particular, or more about that jumping to solution mode?
Yeah. How can we give, I don't know, to the stakeholders, or if it's the leadership or the exec board or sponsor, look, there is a process. And I know you're in a hurry and you want to get this problem solved, but So
I think the argument for slowing down a little bit is that we will then be able to go faster and be more effective. There's different kind of expressions that come to mind. One is very much a Toyota-ism of go slow to go fast.
Yes. So
that both parts of that are important. So going slow doesn't sound good. There's, we don't have time for that. I think of related expressions. It's attributed to different historical figures. You might say, if you gave me an hour to cut down a tree, I would spend 50 minutes sharpening my axe, and then I would cut down the tree. Yeah. Or I think it's attributed to a famous General Motors engineer 100 years ago, Charles Kettering. A problem well defined is half solved.
Yes.
So going slow for a period allows us to then move much more quickly, and better defining the problem, having a structured problem solving approach is going to increase our success rate. So do you want to rush through change, struggle and fail more quickly, or do you want to take the appropriate amount of time to be more successful? And thinking back to one of your earlier questions, Heath, around problems, mistakes organizations make, I think one of those mistakes is either if they haven't predetermined the solution, they may have a very small team go through some problem solving, and it might be good problem solving, and they may have a reasonably good solution. But then they implement the solution, and they start selling that solution as it's being implemented. They're trying to, we hear these phrases, we're trying to gain buy-in.
Yes.
And you really should be doing that from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like trying to gain buy-in after you've rolled out a technology solution, that's too late.
Yeah.
I think the best way to gain buy-in is to bring people along through the entire process. So you're not going to have everybody literally participating in the problem-solving process, but I think first you can gain buy-in around the problem definition. If people don't agree that a problem exists, why will they be interested in a solution? If they think the status quo is fine, or if the status quo is fine for them, they say, I like the way the old software works. Well, okay, but it doesn't meet business needs, and it's not a modern platform, and it's costing us way too much. And helping people understand the problem, and then helping them understand the solution and how it fits into their work before it's being implemented, that's going to increase your success rate. But a lot of organizations would say, we don't have time for that. Those people don't deserve to have input. They need to just do what we tell them to do. It's, your analogy, if they're being hit over the head with a book.
Yeah, I've seen that. And it doesn't end well for anyone.
Hi, me again. Hope you're getting tons of actionable takeaways from this episode. Quick question. Where are you in your transformation journey? If you're an executive planning one, take our Transformation Ready Scorecard to stress test your strategy. In the middle of a struggling initiative, our health check pinpoints your gaps. A practitioner wanting to level up, our delivery scorecard benchmarks you against world-class standards. All three are free. Take 2 minutes and give you a custom report. Start now at hoba.tech/scorecards.
I like what you're saying about I want to talk to that part about defining the problem. Now, some places, depending if they've been through these transformations before, and particularly large ones, and if they haven't gone successful, I think they've got a natural, the reserved, or has a reservation about doing it a certain way. I'll give you an example. I helped the Ministry of Justice on a big transformation, and they had 53 sites around the country, and I put the proposal together for the program director, the program manager, project manager, and then the core team. And they said, Heath, that's great. Yeah, now you got to take it to the board, the sponsor, to sign it off. So I go to the sponsor, go to the board, and they present it, and they say, Heath, like the approach, these 6 steps make sense. We definitely got to do it, but I want you to start at number 5. Step number 5. Yep. And I said, do you want me to start at number 5, like in design, step 5 design? He says, yes. I said, look, that means, and I've been here for a couple of weeks, and I've met the staff, and I've sat in your workshops, and I'm trying to understand the scope, and I think I understand it, but the first step is about the vision and the focus, and I've not seen that anywhere. And so we're missing that. So you want me to start at 5 without a vision? Okay. Step 2 is about control, and then about governance and who's involved. I said, I've not seen any of that, especially about design principles. I don't even know what the scope is. It's so broad right now. You're trying to solve the problem for everyone. And then we've got step number 3 is about analysis of the current state. And he goes, Heath, there's 53 sites around the country. Look, they do the whole process 53 different ways. If you want to understand the current place, the current state, that's 53 different locations, Heath. I said, yeah, great. Just give me one. Yeah. And it's going to be the best BAU, best practice. And for some, it's going to be aspirational. For a lot of people, it's going to be ways of working it is today. And he's going, this could make a bit of sense, but I want you to just start at number 5. And he goes, oh no, Heath, I just want you to start at number 5. And I said, okay, if you give me 20 minutes, I'm going to come back with that plan that you spent 2 years with those other 2 crowds and they got absolutely nowhere. I'm going to pull it out because that's exactly what they did. And they're going to bring it back to you. Give me 20 minutes. He goes, no, I don't want that. I said, that's the same approach. You want me to disregard the problems today. So how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I think it's a common challenge, or it can be a frustration in consulting where, an organization says, okay, you're knowledgeable. They may even use the word expert. You're an expert. We want your approach, but then they don't really want the approach. Sometimes they want someone just to validate what they've already decided.
Yes.
So it's back to this question of, you say you want to transform, or are you really wanting to transform? You say you want to follow a consultant's process, but do you really want to? I try to be really careful as a consultant. I think KaiNexus as a software company is careful this way of finding clients or customers who are a good fit.
Yes.
And test a little bit of, this is, if we reach an agreement to work together, this is the methodology we're going to follow, and be willing to walk away if they say no, even if they start saying no after the contract has been signed. Because I think as a consultant, a lot of us we succeed over time when we have successful projects and when clients love what you've done and how you've worked with them, and they're willing to tell other people. That's the best form of marketing. Absolutely. And you feel pressured to take a job just because of the money, and it's going to be frustrating and not go well. That's only maybe that's short-term income. It's long-term, maybe harm to your business.
Detrimental.
Nexus tries to, or when you're an early startup, you want everyone to be a customer, and anyone who's willing to write a check is exciting, and it's a big moment, and it's a lot of trust being placed in you. But then you learn sometimes those customers don't work out. They don't stay around long enough to where it's even worth the effort. Yeah. So then as you mature as a business, you start, I think, defining a better profile of who do you best work with and who's most likely to be successful. And maybe even say no to some
Yeah,
of
the
those people.
ICP.
You want to do it your way, do it your way.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. So there's a little tip, ladies and gentlemen, from more of a consultancy perspective about, I think it's a great tip there, is that when you're choosing your clients, is that looking for that fit. And I like how you said that. And I think a lot of consultants might fall into this trap. I know when I started off, I did too, is that you have your approach and then you sell it, you pitch it, the client found out about it, they like it. But when you start, they say, we want you to do it this way. And so I can tell you how that's going to go already. And it's like, it's the same place. Like I'm right now, I'm helping a client who have now got me on 3 projects. And one of them is actually the business plan, the investment case got signed off in 2022, like 3 years ago. And it's like, I said, okay, this is a dead horse. I said from the beginning, this is, you've tried to sling this thing around and it's got no legs. And I said, why now? So what makes you think you're going to do it? You know, this is going to be successful, get some legs and do something. And I said, look, the guy I'm reporting directly to, he said, so what's your thoughts, Heath? I said, it's either going to be the whole organization or nothing.
Sure.
It's going to go nowhere because you've tried it before, and I think you did it on a piecemeal back of a fag packet, and now you want to invest in it. But you've got to be willing to change and follow the approach. And so I've come in now, and we've now been 3 months into it, and I put the plan together and approach, and now we're saying, the sponsor's saying, we seem to be going nowhere. I said, wait a minute, because you've already changed the approach 3 times. This is why your projects aren't success. So I like what you said there. So ladies and gentlemen,
and you step back and ask the problem from 2022, does that problem still exist? And if it was really that big of a problem and that big of a pain point, why did this work not move forward? There's a lot of valid questions to ask there. But I think one thing, kind of thinking back earlier, I was dismissing the idea of hire me and implement my magical 47-step approach. A lot of that is, of those 47 steps, 43 of them might be implementing my typical solution.
Yeah.
Where I think structured problem solving, you describe that as an 8-step process, but I think I think it's different to say we have a process and a framework for figuring this out together and figuring it out well, as opposed to buying a solution that I always implement the same way everywhere I go. I think there are differences there.
I like that. Yeah, I think that it's the finessing of those words and also the execution of all those words that you said there. It's, if I can paraphrase there, a process and framework that we can work out the problem and the answer together. I think that is golden. I'm going to quote you on that one. That is, and I think and going back to, if it's the culture, security, and leadership points that you raised earlier, is that you're showing them that this is not we're pulling out of the shelf and banging it over the head. It's not a canned approach that we try this and works every single time, our 47 steps. We're giving you the magic 45. So through this collaborative approach, we will work out the answer together. I couldn't tell you now. If you want me, I'll give you, like the Ministry of Justice to say, give me the step number 5 answer now, Heath, without understanding anything. So, to your approach, process and framework that we can work out the problem and the answer together. I like it. I love it. It's great. Okay. So now, the industry itself has got a few issues. We've got a few books there that Mark could lend them, recommend for them to address those. But your approach, we started to get into it. No, sorry, I cut you off there. I went back on the problem solving approach. So your approach that you do when you go in to a client, what is that? And could you step us through it?
Yeah, I mean, at a high level, that process starts in writing the proposal and what would turn into the contract. Understand, if somebody comes to me and says, we want help implementing this solution, I'm probably not the right fit for them. They could hire somebody else who would probably at a lower cost just help them implement their solution. I think a lot of the value I bring is in that co-creation, as you were describing it, Heath, of even in the proposal phase of doing a little bit of work together to do that problem definition, or at least a first pass at defining the problem, the gap in performance. So not just what's the problem, but what are we trying to achieve,
Yep.
to what business benefit, hopefully a strategic business benefit. And then what's our methodology to go forward, working with a team. One thing I've learned is one thing that doesn't work is bringing in the consultant to do all that work themselves.
Yeah.
Engaging with a team of leaders or even frontline staff, depending on the situation. We would come into an engagement and a signed contract with that problem-solving process having started, but not knowing exactly what the solution is going to be, but having a time frame and a methodology for how we're going to go in and refine that problem statement, study the current state, understand the causes of the gap in performance, and again, figuring out what do we need to improve or transform or reinvent. And how are we going to measure success? How are we going to sustain that improvement? How are we going to sustain the results? How do we set up continuous improvement? So there are sometimes remedial steps that are necessary around culture and psychological safety. If the starting point, if somebody's really trying to do something transformational, part of the going slow to go fast might be some remedial steps around trying to boost the feeling of psychological safety so that people can perform and participate effectively in that engagement or that project. Because again, hopefully we're shifting the culture in a sustainable way. It's not just about the project's success, but about the organization's success. That's a high level kind of 8-step problem-solving process that comes from, I give credit to the Toyota people that I've learned this from and been mentored on.
Yep.
That's my attempt there at describing the approach. And I think back to more recent projects I've done with hospitals and health systems here in the US. I think people appreciate being engaged in the improvement process instead of being, again, I love your analogy, instead of just being handed the book or being hit with the book. And when we engage that team, they are representatives of their other coworkers. So it's not the colleague hitting people with the book instead of the consultant. The colleagues are there as representatives of, when I work on a project and people have been assigned temporarily to work on this project, you might select a couple of nurses, a couple of operating room techs, as we would call them in the US. You might have a surgeon participating part-time because surgeons need to work as surgeons. They're not the only ones who get input, but part of their job is going out and engaging others to get some part-time
champions.
Input. Yeah, they're more the champions. They're not the only ones. They shouldn't be working in an improvement silo. They shouldn't be working in secrecy to then surprise, unveil the big solution at some point. Like you need to put the effort in to engage more people. And I think those are great lessons around, you could call it change management. You could call it just psychology and understanding people. People very naturally get defensive.
Risk averse. Yeah.
It's not, it could be risk averse,
Or
but I
even
think
change.
I think just being resistant to change is a natural human reaction. If I say, you need to do this, people think, why? I don't want it. You need to do this. No, I don't. But when you engage people in figuring out something together, like the one analogy I use is, let's say you have a group of people that meet and go to lunch once a week. We all know somebody that eats the same food for lunch every day, right? There might be somebody like that. They just like consistency. They're not real adventurous. They like what they like and they eat the same thing every day and they're happy with that. And let's say you have a group that's going out and you've typically gone to the same couple of restaurants where that person can always get their turkey sandwich and chips, right?
Yep.
And I mean that in the British way, chips.
Yes. Yeah, you said it. These guys, every meal.
That's what I'm picturing. And I could have said fish and chips, but then let's say somebody decides on behalf of the team, we're going to go to a new restaurant. It's brand new concept. It's a fusion of Canadian and Cambodian food.
Yep.
And
Yep.
nobody knows what that is. What would be a
Yeah.
fusion of Cambodian and Canadian food? And we tell everybody, you're going to this restaurant whether you
Mm.
like it or not. Some people in that group might say, oh, fun. Okay. I don't
Yeah.
know what that is. I'm keen to try it. There might be some people who are a little bit scared,
Yep.
but they don't say anything because they go along. And then there might be that one person that says, no,
Yeah.
no, I hate that idea. And I think sometimes that resistance is just it's just part of their nature that they like doing the same thing, and that's difficult. It's difficult to change. Then there might be some people in the middle who are upset because they didn't have any input.
Yes.
If you had at least let
Mm.
us discuss, and maybe in a workplace you don't always get to vote on what the business needs to do.
Mm.
So the analogy maybe has its limitations. I think there's that difference between forcing change versus engaging people in the
And taking
conversation.
them along the journey. Yeah.
And
Taking
and
them
and the
along the
one
journey.
expression that I think is a mistake, I hear leaders say, I want people to feel like they had input.
Oh, but don't give them input. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Like
You,
finish the
you you
sentence.
get exactly the
Yeah.
way you reacted. You know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they shouldn't feel like they have input. They should have input,
Actual input. Yes.
actual input. This is not about change management theater of
Oh.
It's not about manipulating people. It's about engaging them.
Hi, me again. If you're a transformation consultant or leader, here's something extra. Our Fast Digital Transformation Masterclass reveals how to cut through complexity and deliver 10x faster without blowing budgets. It's the same system we've taught to governments and unicorn startups. Watch the replay free at Hoba Tech Masterclass. Trust me, you'll want notes for this one. Now, back to the show.
Yes. You said the word there, theatre. Yeah,
Mhm.
this is, and I think with people, and I say to me that not silly nor stupid, is that where they can see where they've been sold a lie, or it is a talking fest where their voices will not be heard despite the effort and maybe the risks or psychological risks you talk about or mention
Yeah.
is of opening sharing their thoughts, which could put them at risk career wise or position wise, or even in the
Right.
company wise, that they don't say anything and they don't. And then
Mm-hmm.
ultimately what happens there, to the point at the very beginning you said about defining the problem. I think the first place, or the best place to define a problem is where the problem is. And usually that's in operations. And
Yeah.
so you got to speak to the people. And what the execs will say, I think you paraphrase what you said earlier, is that these guys upstairs have got a different point of view, and they might be disconnected from reality.
Right.
So they go, we're just going to make the change, and they're going to accept it.
And one advantage in healthcare is, let's say you might have a chief nursing officer who is a nurse, or I should say they used to work as a nurse, right?
Yeah.
So it's possible, like healthcare sometimes moves so quickly. Even if they were last working day to day as a nurse 5 or 10 years ago, they might not really understand the work anymore, and they shouldn't assume that they
Yeah.
do. Or even
Yeah.
thinking about somebody who worked as a nurse before electronic medical records is a very different world than now when we have electronic medical records. So I think leaders, we make a lot of mistakes at any level when we make assumptions. We have to be very careful about checking assumptions. Do we
Yeah.
know something to be true, or are we
Probably.
making an assumption?
Yeah.
Executives sometimes make assumptions. Sometimes frontline staff make assumptions. That's human nature. But yeah, we have to be careful. And I think I'm going to make up a scenario. One other thing that might have been change management theater, as you mentioned, okay, Ministry of Justice, 53 sites. We're going to take the time. We're going to go on a listening tour.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to all 53 sites
Yeah.
and have a 2-hour session at all of those sites and not really intend on using any of the input
No.
there. And
Yeah.
that would be a waste of time. That would be going slow to go slow,
Yeah.
as opposed to going slow to go fast.
Yeah. So the intention needs to be there. Otherwise, the staff will pick it up. I like the great few points you said there. I like what you said about assumptions, and I think part of that is probably a industry, or maybe the space that we're operating in transformation. is a continuing, as well as a continuing issue. And that the leaders were making assumptions like this project that they want my help on, of the 3 years it's been running for. The sponsor is saying, everyone knows that. It's like, everyone knows that's the vision. But so, no, we've got a vision, but that's the organization vision. You've come up with the vision for this program, which is actually the vision. And so the assumption is everyone knows.
That can be a bad assumption. Or,
well, yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Or it could be like we've printed out the vision and it's on a card that hangs on everybody's badge. Therefore, you might be assuming that they've even read it. Yeah. What's the vision? I don't know. It hangs around my neck on my lanyard behind my badge. It doesn't mean I really know it. It doesn't mean I agree with it. It doesn't mean I'm working toward it.
Yeah, So that definitely one about the vision. I like also you said about the change champion with the colleagues. Actually, that Ministry of Justice project in the end, the sponsor signed off on the time that I delivered within the time frame, actually half of the time frame, and the roadmap, and they recouped a lot of long-term outstanding fines that had been written off because of the process improvements we did. And in the board meeting, he said, and we signed it off, he said, well done, Heath, I'll make a note here that you delivered what you asked for, and you did the impossible. You documented the undocumented business. And I said, look, I said to you, I was honest, I said, I don't know your business. I have no idea about the court's tribunal service, but I do have a process. What I need is the knowledge, and it comes from your team. And I asked you to give the team, if you could build the team. And so you seconded these guys from the business. And it was these guys who ran around the country to these 53 sites who spoke to your own team. So it was your own team talking to your own team. And that's why it worked, because it wasn't me. It wasn't consultants doing the talking to them. It was their own team talking to them. So that's how come, to your point.
It sounds like we take a very similar approach, Heath. Yeah.
But so ladies and gentlemen, we are in different parts of the world here now, right? We're in the US and the UK and going, that project there was a couple of $100 million. And so these projects aren't small, and the number of people that are impacted aren't small either, right? And so you're in the US and I'm in the UK here, and there's this common symptoms here. This is not something that happens only in the UK. It doesn't happen in the US. That happens in the US, so what are we not doing? Then we're always up against the same old problems, and are we not learning?
A lot of times industries are not learning, I hate to say. Yeah, when I was working there in Northampton, we would say things like same problems, different accent.
Oh, nice one. Same problem. I love it. I'd quote you that one.
I say process, and I'm exaggerating that a little bit, but in Canada and the UK, it's process. So I try to adapt a little bit. But actually, just one quick little funny story. We're talking about in that pathology project, the drivers and the delivery routes for specimens. American English, I would say route instead of route. Yep. They would make fun of me for saying route, and they would say, "What? You mean the route?" Yes, the route. I will try to say route, and then they would exaggerate it. They would make all in good fun. They would make fun of me for saying route. And they would no, okay, route. That sounds more sophisticated to call it a route.
The route with the route. Yes, there is tomatoes. There, I get that with my New Zealand, a little bit of an Australian, because I spent some time in Australia part here, especially with the Spanish. You'll say a word and they're like, it's completely foreign to them, and you just change a little bit and they go, oh man, it's that, like the similarities. It's like, it's almost, I basically said the same thing.
Right.
And look, we have a blank face. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot of this is it's human nature and it's organizational dynamics. Now, there are, like at a high level, like there are cultural dynamics that make things different, how national culture might influence organizational culture. And even in the United States is such a big country, being in New York or Iowa, those are very different cultures, the way people talk to each other, the way people interact. But we can, back to your question of, are we learning? Yeah. We can learn from each other, even if there's different accents, different languages, different borders being crossed. That's been a great opportunity in healthcare. And I'm going to mention real quickly, in late October, I'm organizing a group of healthcare executives. Typically it's from different countries, to all go to Japan together. to visit organizations that are like Toyota, to visit a couple of factories, which is a great opportunity to learn about culture and improvement, and to
Yeah.
also go visit some Japanese hospitals with the idea of bringing some inspiration and some ideas back home. So I think of like previous trips, we've had people from across Europe, from the Middle East, from different Asian countries, from North America, all coming together and sharing our perspectives and learning from each other. That's really powerful. So if by chance there's somebody who happens to be listening who's a healthcare executive who'd like to do that, please reach out.
Last interruption, promise. If you're thinking, this is great, but how do I automate it? Meet Hoba Pro. It's our new software that turns our framework into a step-by-step platform so you can run transformations faster and with way less chaos. Hundreds of teams are already using it, including the UK Home Office. See how it works with a quick demo at app.hoba.tech. Now back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
I will put the contact details in the show. Sorry, I should have said it from the beginning. Up all your contact details, how to get hold of you, the company, even Kaizen sounds like there's something in terms of continuous improvement, but also how they can get a hold of you for the trip to Japan. That'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So yes, I agree there. The industry, there's opportunity to learn. I think there is, and put aside I don't know, it's the proudness, if it's that, of different different countries, there's an opportunity to learn. Otherwise, we'll do the continuous mistakes. Okay, so now the last question. Now, being as I've said from the beginning, they're like we've got the master of ceremonies here. My goodness, we're in the presence of royalty. Continuous improvement royalty here. So
now for somebody in England to say that to an American, that's hilarious. But
you got to give credit.
We don't have a king. We don't have a king anymore.
Yeah, we have a king. But all honestly, Mark, this is it's UK versus not versus, but the UK USA. It is, you got to give credit where credit's due. And mate, having only published one book, I know that the time it took to do that, and you're not only one but five, and a very impressive career. Now you've done this many times, many years, decades, even multiple bestseller author, award-winning, as well as a 20+ veteran of consultancies, of projects of many sizes, all sizes, different industries, industries and sectors, verticals. If you could do it all again, what would you do differently?
That is a great question. And the one thing I think I reflected on, the one book that I was the editor of, a book called Practicing Lean, myself and 15 other people all shared some reflections from early in our career, mistakes we made and lessons we've learned. And one thing I wish I understood, one thing I understood maybe 10 years into my career, I wish I'd really understood it better, was the difference between being the one driving change and doing the problem solving versus facilitating others in doing the problem solving. Making that shift led to, I think, greater success, greater fulfillment, which is better results in terms of doing improvement work. The thing that I wish I had understood, the thing that I started learning about maybe 10 years ago and in the past 5 have really incorporated more into my work, is this understanding around not just trying to engage people, but creating the conditions where they feel safe to fully engage.
Yep.
So that comes back to the study and the teaching and the practices around psychological safety, and incorporating that into transformation work. And you can't just tell people that they should speak up, and you can't tell people they should feel safe, but you can create the conditions where they feel safe to speak up, safe to participate. I think one of the greatest failure modes, reasons for failure, reason for that 70% underperformance or whatever that number might be.
Yeah.
I'm really convinced that it's the lack of psychological safety, or said another way, people don't feel fully safe to speak up, and
Yep.
that either drags our transformation efforts down, they never get off the ground, or again, like people are just being hesitant and cautious, nibbling around the edges instead of really diving in to do real transformation. So those are things I wish I had understood earlier in my career. That's where part of my passion for trying to share that. Earlier you said 20 plus years. It's now this month
40.
30 years since I graduated from college. So I
Wow.
guess I'm not going to start saying 30 years
You got to start saying 30 years.
of
That-
experience. It's still
yeah.
20 plus. That's still
Uh,
technically true. But
okay.
I think those are some of the key lessons, things I wish I had learned
All
earlier.
right. Okay, I'm going to play it back to you just quickly. There's doing versus facilitating. So there was a switch you did, I think, probably two parts. That is your mindset, but physically how you facilitated that. There was so that there resulted you in better outcomes, results, engagement, etc. So the takeaway for ladies and gentlemen is getting out of the doing into more facilitating, supporting those and others. And I think the key part, really, the second part of that is that, and I'll quote and put the reference to the book, if I got this right, Timothy Clark, Four
Clark,
Stages of
yes.
Psychological Safety. Okay, so
Yes,
we'll put the in
exactly.
the show notes there to get where to get that book. But the part of, and I think what you're saying here is not just saying about the psychological safety, is that actually providing that environment for the psychological safety.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because each person decides how safe they feel, and that's based on the interactions they've had
Yeah.
or are having with their leaders and with their colleagues. So I think, to leaders, I think one key lesson around three things you can do as a leader to help people feel more safe. One is modeling vulnerability and saying things like, I was wrong, I made a mistake, I don't know.
Oh,
Asking for, then encouraging others to speak up,
yeah.
to say
That's
those same things. I reward people for saying, I don't know, I could be wrong, so let's test the idea. I made a mistake, there's a problem. And then reward people
yep.
when they do speak up. So it's really three pieces: modeling the behavior you want to see,
Yep.
encouraging it from others, and then rewarding it when it happens.
Okay, so I'll play it back. So I got it. So I remember because I'm learning here too. So this
Sure.
is so the modeling, encouraging, and rewarding that behavior. And I think I've started to see that a little bit where leaders actually will say, look, then those terms, those words, is I don't know, we don't know, and we'll find out if we're going through this process. And so that's
Yes.
admitting, and some leaders will see that it's a weakness. So well, no, I think it's more of a strength that you're saying that if you think you're perfect, then well, we've got the answers already. And then it comes back to we've got the answers. I'm going to give you the answers. It's like, here's the
Right.
answers without even consulting you. And so we're back to square one again. So no, I
Right.
really like that. So we'll get that from, so the show notes there. We'll wrap it up there. So thank you very much, Mark, for your time and
Yeah.
energy and your insights. Just to recap, that was the 4 stages of psychological safety from Timothy R. Clark. I'll put this will come up on where we're going to put it, YouTube in a week or two, hopefully not that long. I'll tag you on put it on LinkedIn and tag you. You can share it away. But thank you very much for your time. I know it's now still only morning in the States where
Yeah.
you are, so maybe also lunchtime. So, so thank you very much.
My cup of coffee, I think, was kicking in during the
Ah,
conversation, and thank you for. I mean, your energy is helping me fully wake up. I mean, I was awake when we started, but now, between your energy and the caffeine energy, I feel even better. So thank you for that.
oh, my pleasure, Mark. Honestly, thank you. Thank you for your time. We'll stay in touch, and hopefully I'll get over to the States later this year. To wherever you end up being, if it's not Texas and Cincinnati, I will look you
Yeah.
up. Okay, been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much, Heath.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, see you. Bye bye.